We've traveled far together. In episode 01, we discovered that money is not gold or paper, but belief. In episode 02, we watched governments take control of that belief and slowly lose control of stability. In episode 03, we saw who really controls money and why that question changed everything after 2008. In episode 04, we explored Bitcoin not as technology, but as a response to broken trust. A question written in code. What if money didn't have to be someone else's debt? Now we arrive at the final episode. Not with predictions, not with price targets, not with certainties, but with something more valuable. A framework for understanding what comes next. The future never arrives suddenly. Let me tell you something important about how change really happens. Monetary systems do not collapse overnight. They transform. Quietly. Incrementally. Almost invisibly. People still use the same currency. The same banks. The same payment apps on their phones. Nothing dramatic seems to change. But underneath, the meaning shifts. This is how all monetary transitions occur. Not with chaos, but with confusion. Not with revolution, but with erosion. The age of unquestioned money is over. For most of the 20th century, people simply did not think about money. They earned it. They saved it. They spent it. That was it. Its legitimacy was assumed, inherited, invisible. That era is over. Today, people ask questions their grandparents never thought to ask. Why does my money buy less every year? Why do houses and stocks keep going up while my wages don't? Why do we keep having crises, and why do the same people always seem to survive them? Why does national debt grow forever with no consequences? Once money becomes a topic of conversation, once people start questioning, it has already changed. The return of monetary awareness. This era is defined not by inflation alone. It is defined by awareness. People now understand something fundamental that previous generations took for granted. Money is not neutral. It never was. Every monetary design favors someone. Every system redistributes power, whether it admits it or not. And as societies become more educated, more connected, more exposed to information, monetary ignorance becomes impossible to maintain. This does not automatically lead to revolution. It leads to something more subtle. Pluralism. The world of many monies. The future will not have one form of money. That single currency world, the world your parents grew up in, is already fading. The future will have layers. Let me show you what I mean. Layer 1. Central bank money. For taxes, for settlement, for stability. The base layer. The unit of account everything else refers back to. Layer 2. Commercial bank money. For credit, for growth, for mortgages and business loans. The money that actually lubricates the economy. Layer 3. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. State-issued digital cash, programmable if governments choose. Efficient, visible, controversial. Layer 4. Private digital assets. Bitcoin, Ethereum, stablecoins, everything else. For preservation, for speculation, for escape, for people who want options. Layer 5. Global settlement assets. Gold, perhaps Bitcoin, perhaps something new. Assets that settle across borders without asking permission. Money will fragment, not collapse. And fragmentation is not weakness. It is adaptation. Central banks will not disappear. Despite what crypto enthusiasts might tell you, central banks are not going away. They are transforming. The future central bank will be more digital, more transparent, more scrutinized than ever before. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are not about control alone. They are about survival. States must modernize their monetary infrastructure or risk becoming irrelevant in global payment systems. If transactions move to private platforms, if stablecoins dominate cross-border payments, if people stop using the national currency entirely, the state loses its ability to tax, to stabilize, to govern. So CBDCs are coming. Not because governments are evil, but because they must adapt or fade. But digitization brings tension. Efficiency increases. So does visibility. And with visibility comes fear. The trade-off no one can escape. Here is the truth every monetary system must face. There is a fundamental trade-off. Efficiency versus freedom. Control versus resilience. Centralization versus neutrality. You cannot have all of them at once. If you optimize for efficiency, you concentrate power. If you optimize for freedom, you accept friction. If you optimize for control, you lose trust. If you optimize for neutrality, you lose responsiveness. There is no perfect solution. Only choices. Societies must decide what they value most and accept what they lose. Technology does not remove trade-offs. It exposes them. Trust becomes the scarce resource. In the future, money itself will not be scarce. We can create infinite digital currency units. We've known that since 1971. What becomes scarce is trust. People will choose monetary systems the same way they choose institutions. Based on credibility. Who keeps their promises? Who changes the rules unexpectedly? Who behaves predictably under stress? Trust will not come from marketing. It will not come from slogans. It will not come from logos. It will come from behavior over time. Decades, not years. The quiet competition begins. Monetary systems will compete peacefully. Not through ideology. Through reliability. People will not abandon national currencies overnight. Most transactions will still happen in dollars, euros, yen. But people will hedge. They will diversify belief. Just as sophisticated investors diversify portfolios. Sophisticated savers will diversify across monetary layers. Some in the central bank layer. Some in Bitcoin. Some in gold. Some in real assets. This is not rebellion. It is rational adaptation. And rational adaptation, multiplied by millions of people, changes everything. What Bitcoin ultimately represents. After 4 episodes, we can finally answer this honestly. Bitcoin is not the future of money. It is a reference point. A reminder. A benchmark of discipline. It shows what money looks like when rules cannot be changed. When no committee can print more. When no crisis justifies exception. Whether that is desirable depends entirely on your values. If you value predictability above all, Bitcoin is beautiful. If you value responsiveness, Bitcoin is terrifying. If you value fairness, Bitcoin is intriguing. If you value compassion, Bitcoin is cold. Bitcoin does not demand adoption. It asks a question. How much discretion should money have? That question will define monetary debates for the next century. The future role of banks. Banks will remain essential. They always have been, not because they're perfect, but because credit is essential. Modern economies cannot function without lending. And lending requires banks. But their dominance will be challenged. Not by collapse. Not by revolution. But by alternatives. Banks will compete on trust, not access. On transparency, not privilege. On service, not proximity to power. The banks that survive will be the ones that remember. Trust is earned, not inherited. The role of governments. Governments will still tax, still spend, still stabilize. They have to. That's what governments do. But legitimacy will matter more than authority. Coercion works briefly. Confidence works permanently. The future state will not command belief. It will earn it. Through consistent rules. Through predictable behavior. Through fairness that feels real, not just performative. Money returns to its origin. After all of this, after 5 episodes, after thousands of years of history, after gold and paper and digital code, money returns to what it always was. A social agreement. Not paper. Not code. Not gold. Agreement. The technology changes. The institutions change. The forms change. But the foundation does not. Money works only when people believe that the system is fair enough to participate in. Not perfect. Not ideal. Not flawless. Fair enough. The final realization. Humanity did not invent money to become rich. We invented money to cooperate. To coordinate effort across time and distance. To build futures together. To exchange value with strangers and never meet them. That is the miracle. When money stops serving that purpose, when it stops enabling cooperation and starts enabling extraction, people search for alternatives. Not because they want chaos, but because they want meaning restored. Where we stand now, we are not witnessing the end of money. We are witnessing the end of unquestioned money. This is not a crisis. It is maturity. Society is growing conscious of its own systems. And consciousness always changes behavior. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You cannot unlearn what you have learned. Once you know that money is belief, you can never again pretend it's just paper. Once you know that banks create money, you can never again pretend they're just intermediaries. Once you know that 2008 revealed who gets rescued, you can never again pretend the system is fair for everyone. Once you know that Bitcoin exists, you can never again pretend that money must come from authority. This awareness changes everything. The future will not be chosen by technology. Technology only provides options. Humans choose legitimacy. The future will be chosen by values. By what societies tolerate. By what they refuse. By what they believe is fair. Not by what is fastest. Not by what is most efficient. Not by what makes billionaires richer. By what feels right. And right differs across cultures. Across generations, across individuals. That is why the future will have many monies. Because there are many definitions of right. Final words. Money will survive. It always has. Through empires and collapses. Through wars and pandemics. Through inflations and depressions. Money survives because humans need to cooperate. But money will never again be invisible. And perhaps that is progress. Because when people understand money, they no longer worship it. They no longer fear it. They no longer assume it will take care of itself. They question it. And questioning is the beginning of responsible power. This has been the Money Puzzle. 5 episodes. Thousands of years of history. One question at the center of it all. What do you believe? Because that is what money is. And that is what money will always be. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, through 5 episodes, through thousands of years of monetary history, through gold and fiat and Bitcoin and the future, thank you. This series was never about telling you what to think. It was about giving you the tools to think for yourself, to see money differently, to question what everyone else takes for granted, to understand that the system you live in was built by people, and can be changed by people. Here's what I need from you. First, hit that like button, not for me, for the algorithm, so other people can find this, so deep thinking doesn't disappear beneath an avalanche of shallow content. Second, subscribe if you haven't already. This is the end of the money puzzle, but it's not the end of our conversations. There will be more series, more questions, more explorations of the systems that shape your life without you noticing. And third, and this is the one I genuinely care about most, leave a comment. Tell me, what did this series change for you? Did it shift how you see money? What questions are you still asking? What should we explore next? I read every single one, every comment, every question, every disagreement. This has never been a lecture. It has always been a conversation. And your voice is part of it. So like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next series. Until then, keep questioning the things everyone else takes for granted.